After my fiancée and I broke up suddenly, I moved to another city to start over. 4 years later, I returned to the city where I used to live. The moment the plane landed, I received an invitation, a class reunion. To my surprise, my ex-fiancée, who had always avoided such occasions, was also attending. As soon as I took my seat, friends gathered around me. Everyone asked in unison, "Where have you been all these years? We heard that on the day you were supposed to get your marriage certificate, you disappeared without a word. Katerina has been waiting for you all these years, never marrying anyone else. Did you come back this time to reconcile with her? When you left back then, Katerina went almost crazy trying to find you. How could you be so cold-hearted, cutting all contact for so long?" Their voices overlapped, trapping me in a haze of confusion. The fiancé who had stood me up that day sat across the table, wearing a pitiful, delicate expression. I just looked at her coldly and said, "Katerina, didn't you tell everyone that back then, at the Civil Affairs Bureau, it was you who stood me up and married that male student you were sponsoring? That's why we broke up, isn't it?" The lively private room fell silent instantly. Katerina opened her mouth to explain, but before she could speak, I raised my hand and showed my wedding ring. "In the 4 years I've been away, I've already built a family, a career, and have children. Miss Katerina, it's time for you to let go." Katerina's eyes reddened immediately, but I could never forget, after 7 years of love, Katerina and I had finally reached the step of getting our marriage certificate. We had waited in line at the Civil Affairs Bureau for half a day, and when our number was finally called, her sponsored male student suddenly appeared, naturally wrapping his arm around her waist and saying, "Katerina, sorry to keep you waiting. Let's go in." I froze in place, my mind going completely blank. Katerina turned to me, her voice frighteningly calm. "I promised to give Romeo a home. He grew up without parents. Poor thing. Don't worry, it's only for 2 years. Once he graduates, I'll leave him right away. Then, you and I can be together, openly, for the rest of our lives." She paused, then added, "The one I love has always been you." "This is just me keeping a promise." I said nothing, watching helplessly as the two of them walked inside, close and intimate. Then I pulled out my phone and dialed the number of the woman who had pursued me for 4 years. "Fiona, I need a partner for a wedding. You coming?" Chapter 1. On the other end of the line, her voice was hoarse. She'd clearly just been woken up. "Augustine, don't mess around. I pulled an all-nighter yesterday. I just lay down. Half an hour," I said flatly. "I'll wait for you. Come, and we'll get the marriage certificate." There was a brief silence. Then came the sound of her knee hitting a desk, followed by a sharp hiss of pain. "Augustine, you'd better not be lying to me," she snapped before hanging up. Not long after, Katerina came out, holding Romeo's arm. When she saw I was still there, she frowned. "Who were you talking to on the phone?" That bright red marriage booklet was in her hand, but not for me. What I had spent 7 years of my life trying to obtain, Romeo had gotten effortlessly, just by making a so-called promise. Absurd. Utterly absurd. "I'm talking to you," she pressed, her tone growing impatient. "A friend," I replied calmly. She visibly relaxed, her voice softening. "I know this makes you uncomfortable, but I promised Romeo first. A person has to keep their word, right?" I nodded slightly. "Yeah, I understand." I understood her choice, but that didn't mean I accepted the ending. She'd rather tie herself legally to a boy who was practically a stranger than give closure to our 7-year relationship. Honestly, I would have preferred it if she'd simply fallen in love with someone else. At least that would have been clean. But this reason, this so-called promise, made those 7 years feel like a joke. And I, the biggest fool of all, Fiona had warned me before, saying she couldn't see love for me in Katerina's eyes. I'd gotten angry at her for that. Now, I knew she'd been right. 7 years of love. No, it was a one-man performance from start to finish. "Since you understand, then come home with me," Katerina said, reaching out to grab my hand. "Home?" I stepped back. "You chose the wrong word. That house is mine, not your home. And certainly not yours and his." Katerina's face stiffened instantly. "Augustine, stop throwing a tantrum." Her words made me laugh, genuinely laugh, though there was no joy in it. The house I'd worked so hard to buy, the one meant for our marriage, had somehow turned into a warm little inn for them to feel the warmth of a family. Do I really look like that big of a fool? "Please, Katerina, don't be upset," Romeo tried to mediate, turning to me with a look of sincerity. "Augustine, you're misunderstanding. I never wanted to take over your place. I just wanted to feel what it's like to have a home through Katerina. I'd never interfere with you too." I cut him off coldly. "If you want to feel the warmth of a home, why not find an older lady and call her your godmother?" "Oh wait, I get it. Probably no one's foolish enough to raise such a grown-up son for free." The words had barely left my mouth before Romeo's face went ashen. Chapter 2. Enough, Augustine. Katerina's face turned pale with anger. "If you keep talking like that, all sharp words and sarcasm, you'll only make me sick." Romeo started his performance again. First, he gave me a wounded look, as if I'd just trampled his dignity. Then he lowered his head, turning to Katerina with the air of a martyr taking the blame. Katerina, don't be angry with Augustine. It's my fault. I shouldn't have mentioned the warmth of a home. Don't blame him. If you have to blame someone, blame me. My stomach churned. A man over 6 feet tall, playing the helpless White Lotus victim, truly a masterpiece of shameless acting. And the worst part, Katerina fell for it. Her expression softened. She reached out to gently stroke his cheek, her voice tender enough to drip water. It's not your fault, silly. The next second, that same tenderness froze on her face. Her eyes turned sharp as knives, directed straight at me. Augustine, I never knew you could be so petty. Apologize to Romeo right now. Otherwise, forget about waiting for those 2 years, there's no point anymore. I pointed to the red marriage booklet in her hand, reminding her of the simple truth. You've already registered with Romeo. There was never going to be a wedding between us. Bigamy is illegal. In case you forgot. My words hit her like a slap. For a moment, she was speechless. Romeo, however, furrowed his brows and said in a patronizing tone, like some wise elder, "Bro, you shouldn't say things like that. Once words are spoken, they can't be taken back." I have no intention of taking them back. My tone was calm. Since you two are legally married now, I wish you both an early and fruitful life together. Augustine, don't be so damn shameless. Katerina finally exploded completely. Was I being excessive? I laughed coldly. No, not as excessive as you cheating on me right in front of my eyes. Katerina, Augustine's just angry. Let's go, Romeo said smoothly, pulling her away at just the right time. As their figures disappeared from sight, my thoughts drifted back to 7 years ago. The freshman welcome party, Katerina in a white dress, her clear voice singing a cappella, breaking effortlessly into my world. From that moment on, I chased her for 7 years, 4 years through college, 3 more at work. In my world, there was room for no one else. When she was happy, I laughed with her. When she was sad, I was always the first to appear. I truly believed that companionship was the most profound declaration of love, that if I gave her everything, she'd eventually be moved. For 7 years, I buried every frustration from work and life, showing her only my energetic, reliable side. I thought love meant shielding her from the wind and rain. She once said she wouldn't marry without her own house, so I worked overtime relentlessly, saving every penny to surprise her. She said she wanted to sponsor a poor college student. I didn't even blink before handing over all my savings. Whatever she asked, I gave. No hesitation. My wholehearted devotion gave her a carefree life, and in return, she spent all her time and energy on Romeo. They traveled together. They joked, laughed, and played together. And every time I showed even the slightest discomfort, she snapped back impatiently. Romeo just sees me as a sister. Can you stop being so dirty-minded? Right. I was the one with the dirty thoughts. And now, that same boy who saw her as a sister had just married her, all for a promise. So what did that make me? I wiped away the moisture from the corner of my eye and unlocked my phone. A message from Fiona lit up the screen. I'm already on the plane. Don't worry, I'll make it before the Civil Affairs Bureau closes today, I replied. No need to rush. We've got plenty of time. Chapter 3. No way. What if you regret it tomorrow? I stared at the message on the screen and couldn't help but smile. Everything that happened today made me finally see Katerina for who she truly was, and see the pathetic fool I had been for 7 years. Not loving someone is such a simple, brutal truth. I looked down at the suit I was wearing, the one I had specially prepared for the marriage registration with Katerina. Now, it felt unbearably out of place, even dirty. I needed to get rid of it. It wasn't just a matter of throwing away fabric. It was about saying goodbye to the past, and showing the bare minimum of respect to the person who was about to enter my future. When I got home and opened the door, Romeo was sitting on the living room sofa, wearing my pajamas, legs spread wide, relaxed like the owner of the place. From the bathroom came the sound of running water. Augustine, you're back, he said cheerfully, as if greeting an old friend. I ignored him and walked straight toward the bedroom. Behind me, his voice followed, carrying an arrogant hint of pride. Katerina's got an amazing body. Augustine, I really envy you. I stopped and turned, my expression flat. No need to envy. She's your wife now. Romeo probably thought that would hurt me, but he was wrong. When I opened the bedroom door, the messy bed and the damp patches on the sheets stung my eyes. I grabbed the sheet and yanked it off, tossing it onto the floor, then began looking for clean clothes. Augustine, what's that supposed to mean? Katerina appeared at the door, wrapped in a bathrobe, water dripping from her hair. I answered calmly. Dirty things disgust me. Say that again, she shouted, her voice trembling with anger. Who are you calling dirty? Romeo rushed over again, slipping right into his favorite role, the pitiful, self-blaming saint. Katerina, it's my fault. I shouldn't have said I was tired and wanted to rest on the bed. I'll wash the sheets right now. He bent down to pick them up, but Katerina stopped him, glaring at me. Augustine, have you lost your mind? I know you're angry, and I've been patient with you, but my patience has limits. Now, apologize to Romeo, and I'll pretend none of this ever happened. I turned to her. Sorry, but you can pretend all you want. I can't. You Katerina pointed a trembling finger at me. Can't you just show a little tolerance? I just wanted him to feel what a home is like, to fulfill a wish. He grew up without a family. Can't you show a little compassion? I almost laughed. What did his tragic childhood have to do with me? I wasn't his father. If that's the case, I said evenly, why don't you two move out? Wouldn't your two-person world feel more like a home? You're kicking me out? Katerina stared at me in disbelief. Not kicking you out, I corrected her. Just asking you both to enjoy your married life elsewhere. After all, it wouldn't sound good if people found out newlyweds were living in another man's house, would it? I picked up my jacket and added, I expect you to be gone by the time I'm back. If not, don't blame me for calling the police, breaking and entering, you know. Without looking at their faces again, I changed clothes and walked out. By 4 p.m., I was standing in front of the Civil Affairs Bureau, waiting for Fiona. She came running toward me, suitcase in hand, hair messy from travel, but her smile brighter than the sun. Hubby, I'm here. She threw herself into my arms like a little bird. I stumbled back a step, caught off guard. Hubby. Of course, she said, laughing. We're about to get married, aren't we? What else should I call you? Then she looked up at me nervously. You haven't changed your mind, have you? I couldn't help but smile. Of course not. The paperwork went through quickly and smoothly. Hubby, I have to catch the high-speed train tonight. There's still a ton of work waiting for me. Once I finish up, I'll come right back and stay with you forever. I smiled and nodded. After she left, the marriage certificate remained in my hands. I placed it side by side with the one belonging to Katerina and Romeo, snapped a picture, and posted it online. Chapter 4. Congratulations on your marriage. Officially licensed and ready to go. Less than a minute after I posted the photo, Katerina's call came through. Augustine, who is that woman? You betrayed me. Her voice was shrill, full of hysteria, while I remained calm, detached, like an outsider watching a scene unfold. Oh, that, I said evenly. Who I marry doesn't seem to concern you anymore, does it? As for betrayal, that's a word you really shouldn't be using. Augustine, she screamed. I held the phone away from my ear. No need to shout. My hearing's fine, you bastard. I could almost picture her on the other end, pacing, furious, hair a mess, face flushed with rage. My parents and all my relatives know you're my boyfriend. Now you go and marry someone else. How am I supposed to explain that to them? You still say this has nothing to do with me. I'm your girlfriend. Doing this is betrayal. I asked coldly. Oh really? Funny, my parents, my relatives. Everyone knows you were my girlfriend too when you registered your marriage with Romeo. How do you think that made me look? Or does that not count as betrayal? That's not the same. Her twisted logic made me laugh, a dry, bitter laugh. How exactly is it not the same? You could register with Romeo, but I can't marry someone else. Isn't this perfect now? You have your Romeo, and I have my new life. From now on, we walk separate paths, and stay out of each other's way. Ah. Her roar nearly burst through the speaker. Where are you right now? Get home. Now. We need to talk, face to face. There's nothing left to talk about, I said calmly. But don't worry, I'll come back, just once. Before she could reply, I hung up. Then I dialed 110. Hello, I'd like to report a case of illegal occupation of private property. Yes, the address is in the MD community. If she refused to leave with dignity, then I'd make sure she left without it. 7 years, I had been more than fair. Half an hour later, I opened my door. Katerina sat on the sofa, eyes red and swollen from crying. Romeo had his arm around her shoulder, but my gaze went past them, to the 3 women sitting on the other side of the sofa, sipping sparkling wine, her so-called best friends. The bottle they were drinking was one Fiona had specially ordered from abroad, expensive, rare. I hadn't even opened it myself. I remembered hiding it well. Yet here it was, half empty in their hands. Was this still my home? Or had it become their clubhouse? My face darkened. Who told you could come in? Get out. Before they could react, I strode forward and snatched the bottle from one woman's hand. Half of it was gone. I clenched my jaw in silent anger. Crash. Katerina slammed her hand on the coffee table and shot to her feet, glaring at me. Augustine, what's wrong with you? They're my friends. I invited them. I met her glare with a cold one of my own. And I recall telling you to leave. This isn't your home. And tell me, who gave you the right to rummage through my things? You. Her hands trembled with rage. Her friends jumped in, their voices dripping with mockery. Katerina, since your boyfriend doesn't welcome us, we'll go. But honestly, with a man like this, you'd better dump him soon. Exactly. It's just a bottle of wine. Look how stingy he is. What a joke. Let's go. Total buzzkill. Romeo, ever the peacemaker, spoke softly. Augustine, you've misunderstood. They just came over to help ease the tension between you two. Tension? I gave a short, humorless laugh. I don't recall having any tension left with her. Romeo opened his mouth to say more, but Katerina stopped him. She stared at me, eyes wild, face twisted. Augustine, she said, voice trembling, I'll ask you one last time, do you really want me to leave? Chapter 5. I'm not answering the question a second time. Fine. Katerina's voice was sharp, full of fury. Girls, smash it all. Everything in this house, break it. If anything happens, I'll take the blame. Ha ha ha. Katerina, you're such a queen. About time you did this. The women screamed with excitement, grabbing whatever they could reach and hurling it to the floor, smashing furniture and decorations like a pack of lunatics. Katerina just stood there, watching me, eyes filled with vicious satisfaction. Augustine, if you get on your knees right now and beg me, there's still time to fix this. Beg you. I shook my head and laughed quietly. I truly couldn't understand where Katerina's confidence came from. Did she really think I still loved her enough to forgive everything? This wasn't the first time she'd done something like this. Whenever she threw a tantrum in the past, she'd do the same, smashing whatever she could get her hands on. Every time, it was me who calmed her down, cleaned up the mess, and told myself that patience was love. People say you should never date someone emotionally unstable. They're right. I used to feel exhausted by her outbursts, but my love for her made me tolerate it again and again. But now, it was all over. As I watched her friends gleefully destroying my home, all I felt was cold amusement. Go on, smash it all. The more you break, the more you'll cry later. Katerina, stop them, Romeo said weakly from the side, pretending to mediate. Calm down. When she ignored him, he turned to me, his tone dripping with fake sincerity. Augustine, just apologize to her. Man, if this keeps going, it's only going to get worse. You'll be the one losing out. Keep acting. If I hadn't caught the flash of excitement in his eyes, I might have believed his performance. Losing out? Sorry, not today. I took out my phone, opened the Notes app, and calmly recorded the price of every item those women destroyed, one by one. Then came a sudden, urgent knock on the door. I smiled. Finally, when I opened the door, 3 uniformed police officers stood there. The entire room froze in an instant. Katerina and her friends stared, dumbfounded. She spun around to glare at me, her voice trembling with disbelief. You actually called the police? I shrugged. Didn't I warn you? I said if you weren't gone before I came back, I'd call the police and report you for trespassing. Then I turned to the officers. Officers, it's them and her husband. They broke into my home without permission and refused to leave. Katerina and Romeo were still in shock, but her so-called best friends instantly erupted in protest. Augustine, I can't believe you'd actually do this. Katerina must have been blind to ever like you. Yeah, she just wanted to help Romeo fulfill a promise. And you're calling the cops? You're pathetic. No wonder she didn't marry you. Humph. Let's go. Katerina, a man like this doesn't deserve you. Wait till he comes crawling back, begging for forgiveness. I spoke calmly, almost bored. Sorry, no one's leaving today. They froze. Smash up my house and think you can just walk out. The world doesn't work that way. Officers, I said evenly. These women deliberately damaged my property. I want full compensation for all losses. The color drained from their faces at once. You call yourself a man, making us pay for this? You wish. We're leaving. Let's see who dares to stop us. I stood where I was, unmoving, watching them coldly, because I didn't have to lift a finger. Chapter 6. Intentional destruction of another person's property carries legal consequences. If you refuse to compensate, please come with us to the station to assist with the investigation. The officer's words landed like a hammer. The women who just moments ago had been full of arrogance were suddenly pale and trembling. Officer, this is all a misunderstanding. Yeah, we were just trying to calm things down. We didn't mean to break anything. Katerina, say something. We only did it because you told us to. You said you'd take responsibility. That's right, Katerina. Don't you dare let us take the fall for you. Katerina's face turned an ugly shade of red. Her eyes filled with venom as she glared at me. Augustine, do you really have to be this ruthless? I met her gaze with a cold, silent smile. She was the one who registered her marriage with Romeo. She was the one who ordered her friends to trash my home. And now I'm the one being blamed for going too far. Apparently, my 7 years of tolerance had taught her one thing, that my boundaries could always be pushed lower. My forgiveness always guaranteed. Too bad. When love exists, it's called patience. When love dies, it's called self-respect. And to me now, she was nothing more than a stranger. When she saw I wouldn't budge, Katerina turned to the officers, trying to explain. Officer, this is just a misunderstanding. He and I are a couple. We just had a small argument. They're my friends, and I asked them to come help mediate. Yeah, that's right. Exactly, officer. We're all good people. Don't let him fool you. Her friends clung to her story like drowning women grabbing a plank of wood. The 3 officers turned their attention to me, silently asking for clarification. Without a word, I took out the 2 red marriage certificates from my pocket and placed them in front of them. I'm already married, and as of this morning, she registered her own marriage to another man. 2 married people can't exactly claim to be a couple, can they? Everything she just said, pure nonsense. You. Katerina's finger shook as she pointed at me, her whole body trembling with rage. Enough, said the lead officer. Save it for the station. You can explain everything there. At the police station, as I stood firm on my demand for full compensation, Katerina's so-called best friends immediately turned on her. This whole thing was your idea. We only did what you told us to. You should be the one paying. Exactly. We're not taking the blame for this, Katerina. Friendship is friendship, but money's money. Don't you dare make us your scapegoats. Katerina's face shifted from green to white, then back again. I stood off to the side, watching it all unfold with detached amusement. So this was the sisterhood she was so proud of. When it came to eating, drinking, and gossiping, they were inseparable. But when real trouble arrived, they scattered faster than anyone. Still, she had no one to blame but herself. After all, people attract what they are. And if these were her closest friends, then what did that say about her? The thought that I had once loved a woman like this for 7 years made my stomach twist in physical disgust. Forget it, I'll pay for everything myself. Katerina gritted her teeth, turned to me, and asked coldly, "Fine, how much do you want?" "Let's see." I unlocked my phone, opened my notes, and started adding up the list one item at a time. Then I looked up with a faint smile. Floor repair, custom dining table, imported sofa, wall restoration. I'll even round down for you. The total, 150,000 yuan. Katerina froze, then shrieked, What? That much? Too much, I asked evenly. You've never paid a single cent for this apartment, not for the purchase, not for the renovations. You never cared about the costs, so of course you think it's too high. Should I pull out the receipts for every single thing I bought? Every yuan had been earned by my own hands, through countless late nights and overtime hours. 150,000, not a cent less, I said flatly, a final ultimatum. Katerina glared at me with hatred. Fine, it's just 150,000, I'll pay. Then she turned to Romeo. I only have a little over 10,000 in my account. You'll have to cover the rest first. Romeo looked helpless, his voice trembling. Katerina, I don't have that kind of money. Katerina blinked in disbelief. What do you mean you don't have money? I give you over 30,000 yuan every month for living expenses. Did you spend all of it? Chapter 7. Romeo put on a pitiful face, his tone full of grievance. Katerina, it's not like I want to, but you know how expensive college life is these days. Eating out with classmates and roommates, I can't just let them pay every time. Right. Then there's study materials, club activities, it all adds up. Honestly, I haven't managed to save a single yuan. Katerina took a deep breath, her eyes flickering with something complicated as she looked at him. Then she turned back to me. You heard him. I'm short on cash, and Romeo doesn't have any either. Let's just say I owe you for now. I'll pay you back once I've got the money. No. My tone was flat and final. Augustine. Katerina exploded, her voice sharp and trembling. Don't push it. It's just 150,000. I said I'll pay you back, didn't I? Then pay it now. Her chest rose and fell violently, fury and humiliation burning across her face. And besides, I turned my gaze to Romeo, my voice edged with irony. Do you really believe he doesn't have a single yuan to his name? Romeo's expression shifted ever so slightly before he quickly defended himself. What are you implying? You've been through college too, you know how expensive everything is. And with how kind Katerina's been to me, do you really think I'd lie to her? Heh, I gave a short, cold laugh. Sure, college expenses were real, but burning through over 30,000 a month, that took effort, or a secret. Of course you'd have a reason to lie to her. A clear, confident female voice rang out from the doorway. I turned instinctively, and there she was, Fiona. She stepped inside gracefully, her presence bright and steady, like sunlight cutting through the stale air. For a moment, I froze in surprise before a genuine smile spread across my face. You're back. Didn't you say you had work piling up at the company? She smiled, eyes soft. No matter how big the problem, nothing's more important than you, husband. Fiona came over and naturally slipped her arm through mine. You. Katerina's voice trembled with rage, her eyes burning with hatred as she glared at Fiona. I knew it, you home-wrecking fox. You've always had your greedy little eyes on Augustine. Fiona smiled sweetly and replied, calm and unshaken. Yes, and thank you, Katerina, for making it possible. Fiona didn't get angry at Katerina's accusation. Instead, she smiled with disarming sincerity. If you hadn't chosen to marry Romeo today, making Augustine finally see who you truly are, I probably wouldn't have had this chance at all. She tilted her head slightly, her tone casual but every word sharp enough to draw blood. So really, you're half a matchmaker between us. I should probably treat you to a meal for your help, though. Judging by your face right now, I doubt you're in the mood to eat. Katerina's expression froze, her eyes narrowing into daggers as she glared at Fiona. If we weren't inside the police station, I had no doubt she'd have pounced on her by now. Don't look at me like that, Fiona continued, voice calm, almost gentle. You were the one who pushed Augustine away with your own hands. I didn't break up your relationship, you did that all by yourself. Then her tone shifted, playful yet cold. But tell me, don't you ever wonder where all the charity money for your beloved student actually went? Over 30,000 a month, TSK, even in a top-tier city. That's quite the luxury lifestyle. As she spoke, Fiona cast a faintly mocking glance at Romeo, whose expression grew visibly stiff. Before Katerina could respond, Romeo panicked. He grabbed her hand tightly and blurted out, "Katerina, let's just go. I'll figure out the money issue." Katerina, clearly touched by his supposed sense of responsibility, squeezed his hand in return. "You're just a student. There's no way you can come up with that much money. Don't worry. I want to hear what this woman's trying to spin. I won't believe a word of it." But Romeo tried to interrupt, but Katerina cut him off coldly. She turned to Fiona with a sneer. "Go ahead. I'm listening. Let's see what kind of story you can make up." "Story?" Fiona smiled faintly. "You'll know soon enough." She reached into her bag and pulled out a stack of glossy photographs, slapping them onto the table. "Take a look. Here's what your model student has been doing behind your back." Katerina frowned, picked up the photos, and began flipping through them one by one. Her expression shifted with each turn: confusion, disbelief, shock, then finally, fury. In one sudden motion, she turned and hurled the entire stack straight at Romeo's face. "So this is where all your money went?" The photos scattered across the floor. I glanced down. They were all intimate shots of Romeo with different young women, some in high-end restaurants, others shopping in luxury stores, a few even taken in hotel lobbies. I couldn't help but smirk. No wonder $30,000 a month wasn't enough. Turns out he was funding his own little harem. Katerina glared at Romeo, her voice trembling with rage. "You used my money to keep other women. Unbelievable. You're even worse than I thought." Chapter 8. Romeo's face went pale. He hurriedly waved his hands. "Katerina, these are fake. They're photoshopped. You know me. I get nervous talking to girls I don't know well. There's no way I'd be involved with so many women." Fiona answered slowly, calm as ever. "Whether they're faked or not isn't for you to declare. This is a police station. Shall we ask the tech department to verify their authenticity?" Romeo was instantly silenced. Smack. Katerina delivered a loud, stinging slap across Romeo's face. Her whole body trembled with fury. "I scrimped and saved to give you money for school. Even broke up with the boyfriend I'd been with for 7 years so I could give you a home and register the damn marriage certificate. And this is how you repay me? Do you have any conscience?" Romeo clutched his burning cheek. Whatever mask he'd worn finally shattered. He let out a bitter laugh and dropped the pretense. "You insisted on sponsoring me. I never forced you. And you swore to give me the warmth of a family. Did I ever beg you for that? Don't pin all the blame on me. In the end, you were the silly one, easily flattered by a few sweet words." He paused. Then his tone turned even harsher. "Besides, once the money's in my hand, it's mine. I can spend it any way I want. What business is it of yours?" You bastard." Katerina snapped. She lost control, lunging at Romeo, claws bared, her long nails aiming straight for his face. Romeo was no gentle type either. He grabbed her and they began to wrestle. The officers rushed forward and pulled them apart. Katerina pointed at Romeo, screaming hoarsely, "I gave you so much. I gave up a marriage for you, and this is how you repay me, with betrayal. You ungrateful wretch." Romeo sneered contemptuously. "Don't paint yourself as some martyr, like you suffered so much. What are you, really? You supported me because I'm young and good-looking, to satisfy your secret vanity. We're both using each other, you for ego, me for cash. Don't pretend to be noble. Arg, I'll kill you." Katerina screamed and tried to lunge at Romeo again, but the police held her fast. Fiona tugged my sleeve and whispered, "Hubby, this farce should end. Let's go." I nodded. Before we left, I looked back at the still raging Katerina and tossed one last line at her. "Katerina, 150,000, not a cent less. 1 week. If the money isn't in by then, expect court papers." As we walked out of the station, I could still faintly hear Katerina's blood-curdling curses behind us. "Why did you even look into Romeo?" I asked, genuinely curious. Fiona held onto my arm, looking up at me with that confident sparkle in her eyes. "Of course I checked. I wanted Katerina to see what kind of trash she gave up everything for, and realize how blind she's been. You're a good man, Augustine. Someone had to show her that." "You think I'm a good man?" "Of course," she said without hesitation. Rising on tiptoe, she planted a quick kiss on my cheek. "My husband is the best man in the world. No objections allowed." I couldn't help but laugh, tightening my grip on her hand. The days that followed passed quickly as Fiona and I threw ourselves into preparing our new home. She told me she'd already resigned from her job. Once her handover was done, she'd be moving in for good. No more long distance, no more leaving. A week flew by, bringing with it the deadline I'd given Katerina. That afternoon, she showed up at my door. Augustine. In just one short week, she looked like a completely different person. Hollow cheeks, red eyes, exhaustion written across her face. "I've already divorced Romeo." Her hands trembled as she fumbled in her bag, pulling out a green divorce certificate and thrusting it toward me. "Look, I interrupted her, voice calm. "So what? Let's start over. Okay." She clutched my hand, gripping it so tightly it hurt. "I know I was wrong. I really do. Please, Give me another chance. We can go get our marriage license right now. We'll have a baby, a family, just like before. Please, Augustine. I chuckled softly, turned, and walked into the bedroom. When I came back, I was holding my marriage certificate with Fiona. I waved it lightly in front of her eyes. Katerina, it's broad daylight. Stop dreaming. Fiona and I are getting married next weekend. You're welcome to come for the banquet if you want. I'm not stingy about an extra pair of chopsticks. No, you can't be with her. I love you, Augustine. I can't live without you. You promised we'd be together forever. Katerina shook her head, crying hysterically, but for the first time in 7 years, I felt absolutely nothing. Chapter 9. All warmth vanished from my face. So you do remember we once made a promise, I said quietly. Then tell me, what did your actions mean? You left me standing alone outside the marriage registry, walked straight in with another man, and used the home I bought to give him warmth. When you did all that, did our forever ever cross your mind? Katerina's face went ghostly pale. She couldn't say a word. I continued, voice steady but cold. Katerina, I loved you for 7 years. I gave you everything I possibly could. From the moment you decided to sponsor Romeo, you kept using my love to feed your savior complex. Tell me, am I wrong? It's my fault. It's all my fault. Tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. The only words she could still form were I'm sorry. No need for apologies. I looked at her calmly. Just don't disturb my life again. That will be the greatest respect you can show me. And about the 150,000, not a single yuan less. Augustine, are you really that heartless? You won't leave me even the smallest way back. I met her eyes and said, each word heavy as stone. You want a way back now, but the only road I had was the one you personally destroyed. The sentence hit her like a blow. Her knees gave out, and she collapsed weakly onto the floor. The next day, Katerina came to deliver the money. When I reached out to take the thick envelope of cash, she clutched it tightly, refusing to let go. Her voice trembled with the last flicker of hope. Is it really impossible? Before I could respond, Fiona spoke up first. Miss Katerina, she said, her tone cool but composed. If I were you, I wouldn't even have the face to ask that question. You don't understand. I'm a victim too, Katerina screamed, her voice cracking. Yes, I registered with Romeo, but I swear I never betrayed Augustine. I'm clean. Fiona let out a small, sharp laugh. Maybe your body's clean, she said evenly. But you took the promise of marriage that should have belonged to Augustine and gave it to another man, even if you never crossed the line. That alone is the dirtiest betrayal. I honestly don't know where you find the nerve to beg for his forgiveness. Katerina's face burned red with shame and fury. I gave Fiona's hand a light tug, signaling her to stop. Then, with one firm motion, I pulled the envelope of cash from Katerina's grasp. Go, I said quietly. Our story ends here. No hate, no love, just nothing left. Katerina broke down completely and ran out in tears. A week later, Fiona and I were married as planned. Katerina showed up. She looked even more worn out than before. The hollowness in her eyes said everything words could not. When we went to toast her table, she raised her glass with trembling hands and forced a smile uglier than crying. Congratulations. I wish you both a lifetime of happiness. Thank you. I touched my glass lightly against hers. She downed the liquor in one go, choking as it burned her throat, coughing until her eyes turned red. When she looked up at me, her eyes were full of desperate hope. I gave her a polite nod, nothing more, and turned away, leading Fiona toward the next table. Behind us, her stifled sobs broke through the music. That night, I received one last message from her. I'm leaving the city. I wish you happiness. Truly. I read it once, then deleted it. For a moment, I stood there in silence. Then I walked to the window. Outside, the night was deep, but in the east, the first faint light of dawn had already begun to rise. A new day was beginning.